last 2 weeks have been very interesting in the fact that almost $3 billion has flowed into Indian stocks. And this unseasonal exuberance, when the rest of the economy is stagnant, is probably attributable to the fact that the current account deficit fell to just below 1%. However, this fall was a result of the tight control on gold imports, some of which may have moved into the informal sector of smuggling, and because there has been a fall in the industrial production. So not necessarily the most positive reason, but it has certainly seems to have drawn in a lot of investment. The second is what happened in China and hasn't yet happened in India, and that is the issue of private licensing for banks. The Chinese have, on a pilot basis, decided to issue 5 licenses to private companies where each will require 2 partners. In the Indian case, we have been ready for this for some time, but the Reserve Bank of India is awaiting the permission of the Election Commission of India, since the countdown to elections has already begun. In China, this quite important and significant step may have been taken partly in fulfillment of the undertakings announced during the third-party plenum last year, but it may also be because there is a need to tighten up on the shadow banking sector and simultaneously try to keep the investment availability buoyant. In our own region, there have been important developments and quite worrisome developments. In India, there was the ambush by alleged Naxalites, which killed 18 servicemen. This seems like a repeat of the attack on a Congress party delegation about almost a year ago. But of course, it also highlights the fact that at least as yet, there has been no improvement in the character of policing in the region, nor has there been adequate redressal to take care of the genuine economic and displacement resentments that have been brewing in the area by displaced populations. In our neighborhood, the Taliban in Afghanistan have renewed threats to prevent the presidential election taking place in April. This, of course, heightens all the insecurities which are already fermenting in the region with the American drawdown which has commenced. In Pakistan, the Pak Taliban and its various offshoots are continuing to breach the ceasefire agreement that was arrived at with a government which itself is confused on whether to undertake military measures or to seek accommodation with the Pakistan Taliban. One unprecedented event has been the Chinese announcement that it will now like to work with neighboring countries to address terrorism, following the gruesome attack on passengers at the Kunming railway station. It remains to be seen how this sentiment is put into practice. On the Ukrainian crisis, everyone is now waiting for the referendum in the Crimea to decide whether Ukraine would like to merge with Russia or whatever kind of association that would enable it to loosen its association with the Ukraine. Nobody wants to see any military action, but economic inducements to the government in Ukraine are flying around, and a lot of threats, particularly voiced during the meeting yesterday between U.S. President Obama and the interim Prime Minister of the new government in the Ukraine. In Libya, the chaos is further compounded. A ship from one of the rebel-held ports has set sail despite the government's decision to try to prevent this from leaving, fully loaded as it was, with oil. The consequence is that the Prime Minister has fled to hoping to find asylum in some European country. Really what this shows is that Libya's oil resources have become a free-for-all, and in the meantime, the UN Security Council briefing has revealed that India has now become the primary source of small arms, especially for civil wars at different levels of intensity in many other countries, most of them its own neighbors and near neighbors in Africa. In the United States, the new ambassador, Mr. S. Jaishankar, has presented credentials. At the credential ceremony, President Obama and our ambassador both expressed their fervent wish for Indo-U.S. relations to resume at a higher level than has been witnessed in the past few months and years. To the contrary, the visiting Assistant Secretary for South Asia, Nisha Biswal, continued in her public addresses to blame India for the downturn, particularly in the economic area. Fortunately, the US IBC has contradicted this and called for India not to be put on a priority watch list because it does not accept that India's IPR breaches have been of any significance. A US court has finally pronounced that Ms. Devyani Khobragade, a consular official from New York, had full diplomatic and consular immunity when she was wrongfully arrested and then subjected to all kinds of searches and detention. This is, of course, a welcome development, and it should also be one of the factors that will help in the normalization of Indo-U.S. relations.